This video is brought to you by echopluxmedia.com.
Go. And join me now on It's All Conspiracy is Magistra Ygraine Mitchell from the Church of Satan. Come talk to us about conspiracies and the supernatural. Miss Mitchell, thank you for joining me.
No problem at all. It's happy day. Beautiful day here in Florida.
That's good. I'm a local too. I'll give a little introduction. What is the Church of Satan, and what is your role in the church?
The Church of Satan was founded in 1966 by Anton LaVey. It was designed as using the metaphor of Satan to appeal to our ritualistic needs and our flights of fancy and the spiritual. But it is atheistic, and my role in the church is a magistra, which is a step above priestess and a step under somebody has to die to get a promotion. So that's where I am.
So that's the common misperception that you guys don't actually worship Satan, or you're not devil worshippers.
No, we don't believe in devils, demons, any hobbits, fairies, you name it. We don't dismiss the possibility completely. We embrace science. If they can prove there's a hobbit, we're good with hobbits. But as for now, we believe most of those things, all those things, are metaphor or some form of archetype that we can play with and learn from.
Satanism always gets a bad rap whenever it gets headlines, of course, with that being ritualistic killings by self-proclaimed Satanists going back to, I think it was the 1980s during this what was called the Satanic Panic. Most notably, close to where I live, Bartow, 11, 12-year-old girls tried to do a mass stabbing and calling themselves Satan worshipers, although law enforcement has said doesn't seem to think that there's a need for panic with that.
Well, I think the need, okay, I don't think there's a need for panic yet, but I think the overall climate in the country is one that people are looking very definitely for a scapegoat. Someone everyone, right, left, in the middle, can hate. And I do see us having previously filled that role, and I don't want to see it again. In this case, in Bartow, there is absolutely nothing in this crime or attempted crime to imply Satanism as the religion we know it to be and as it is recognized by various legal experts in this country. I'm kind of more curious about what these kids were allowed to watch on TV at such an impressionable age. I am very worried about what churches they've been to that have promulgated this mythology that allows children to think that there are evil, Satanists out there who want to cut, slash, whatever, when our entire religious canon, from the lists of rules down to the Satanic Bible and through the Satanic scriptures, there is no sacrifice. There's no one to sacrifice to. It makes no sense. If you want to look for sacrifice, look in the Holy Bible. You'll find in Leviticus is an enormous barbecue of people. We don't do that because there's no one to do it for. And even if there was, we'd probably give them the finger and say, what is wrong with you? But the churches have long depended on putting forth a myth that if you're not with us, you're with them, and therefore. And that myth is tied very deeply into the plate being passed around. That's its purpose.
Yeah, going over you just went over some of your points, but going over some of the rules of the church, you don't even accept minors in your church, so it's kind of a head scratcher to say how they would declare themselves Satanists if you don't accept anybody under 18.
That's well, again, no doubt they're basing their definition on what we would call Christian heresy. It's our position that anyone who calls himself a Satanist or a devil worshiper who actually does these things that we are accused of in the traditional churches isn't a Satanist, but merely an inverse Christian, a devil worshiper, a heretic. They believe the Holy Bible. They believe all the characters in the Holy Bible, and then they believe their ministers and the various other sources that put forth these notions. And so they're not even in the same family of religions, not that we have one, but they're not even close to us. They are completely Christian conceived and created.
Yeah, going over the news reports, it seems that this incident might be slightly similar to the Slender Man stabbings, which
Yeah.
in that case seemed to be mental illness, but we don't know if mental illness was involved in these girls. We'll have to wait till more more stuff comes out.
I don't think it's an unfair assumption that a child, and these are children, these aren't even teens yet. If a child packs up a bunch of sharp and pointy objects and even gets as far as the bus stop, either she's mentally ill or I'd really like to know what's going on in their parents' house. I'm like, there is definitely an issue. And I don't believe mental health is it. No, they're bad. That's bad.
Yeah, if someone did say that a demon was telling them to do stuff, I would assume something's either going around in the household or there's a mental health problem. But what is of course I read in the ledger you put out a statement regarding to law enforcement and the media regarding the Church of Satan. Does does law enforcement ever approach the church and ask you what do you know about this?
Absolutely. That's how I kind of started my career with the Church of Satan. I had already been involved in alternative religions, Wicca, neo-paganism, and I was already doing advocacy for them. And I was introduced to real Satanists through law enforcement and realized my place there. I've lectured at police academies. I've been called in to both civil and criminal cases to evaluate whether the clues left behind have any real relationship to us or to another known group that may or may not be like us. Um, it's not uncommon at all. And our position on illegality, particularly crimes against children, animals, and people, mean if somebody is dumb enough, and it does happen, to say, hey, I sacrificed Fluffy yesterday, we're the first ones on the phone calling their local law enforcement saying, you might want to check out where Fluffy is. We tell people, we don't hold some sort of sacred confessional where you get to, spit out all your sins and some man gets to say, hey, you're absolved and keep it to himself. You do something bad, we will report you. Make no mistake, without the slightest hesitation. We don't do forgiveness as a religion.
And you guys don't accept felons in your church, or if they break the law, you excommunicate them?
Well, I'm pretty sure we haven't gotten rid of anyone for getting a ticket or, things being relative, but no, we do not accept known felons. We do not minister in churches. We do not authorize church groups or in prisons. We do not, there is a group running around who calls themselves Satanists who started an after-school program. We couldn't think of a worse idea. We like a separation of church and state. We like only adults. These are things that we don't play with. We see what it's done, frankly, to the masses. Early religious indoctrination rarely pays in any religion.
Most conspiracy theories are accusations that the Church of Satan are vague. Um, like there's accusations against the Freemasons, Jesuits, and Skull and Bones. What's the most common accusation against the church itself? Like, do they say that your high priest Peter Gilmore ordered this ritual in Florida or something?
Well, it's really, I'll be completely honest, it's really hard to trip up Magus Gilmore. He had the benefit of learning under the master. He had the benefit of being our founder's right-hand man. And he saw and he watched. And so he doesn't get a lot of that. We still get attacks on our dead founder. I mean, constantly. He was a this, he was a that, just horrible stuff. Not as horrible as the thing we get the most are either the sacrifices or the breeder mythology. The one where we go around, I guess, in a raper van and like pull women off the street, impregnate them, cut the babies out because apparently we can't wait a week, and sacrifice them. And as far back as 1992, the FBI's report on ritual crime shows that these are, frankly, again, the dirty minds of the creators of the myth. I've seen evangelists and people spew out things we've supposedly done that I can't even conceive what is wrong in their head that they can come up with this. They put you in the body of a dead horse and pull you out its ass. Say what? And you get what from that other than like hepatitis? I mean, what would be the point of, and what is wrong with you that you came up with that and had to say it in front of people? I mean, in many ways, we're like everybody else. In other ways, we're not. But I wish they would hate us for what we are. Hate us because we refuse to kneel before a God. Hate us because we dismiss your supernatural silliness. Hate us because we refuse to forgive just because we're supposed to. Don't hate us because we allegedly did something that there's never been an ounce of proof. The FBI confirmed it in 92. There have been books by the Scientific Examination of Religion. All these, any legitimate source will tell you the Satanic Panic was a money-making scheme that ended up hurting a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. A lot of children, too.
Didn't save anybody. Nobody got well. No. It took years. I mean, myself, I was attacked in my home. I've had animals killed. I've had just the most. And that's why now, when I'm starting to smell that coming back, I'm not overly thrilled with what used to be one of my favorite shows, American Horror Story. And I'd also question about the case in Bartow. I would truly love to know if those kids saw that. First of all, they shouldn't have. They're too young, and that would be parental responsibility run amok. But I'm smelling all the things that I didn't take seriously then. And, you get beaten up a couple of times, and you start taking them seriously. And I smell it. It's coming. Ugh. I'm just glad my kids are grown up now. Because they talk about the Satanic Panic and what they endured being the daughter of the witch and sons of the witch. It was not pretty at all.
Yeah, I bet it was. Is the Church of Satan a secretive organization? Are there secret handshakes, code, or agendas you guys have planned? Or
it just popped in my head. A couple of friends and I when someone asks a question we don't want to answer, we just jokingly say, kinda. And I was thinking, does that qualify? No, there are no decoder rings. In fact, the word occult, although we're often lumped in that group, doesn't apply to us because occult does mean hidden or unseen. Our canon is out there. There are 7 books that comprise it. There are also several documents, the Satanic Sins, the statements, that put forth our big agenda. We have something called 5-point pentagonal revisionism. And even those are just hopes for the future. Stratification being, instead of screaming, I'm a Satanist, do this for me, just do your job well and help others do theirs well. Artificial human companions, which we're seeing with the live dolls. You know what? If people have weird kinks, They shouldn't have to sacrifice a relationship or a loving bond with someone. Sounds like a good idea. You know what? They can make your coffee, they can make your bed, they can fly you to the moon, but you can't, like, bang them. Why not? Okay, it won't hurt anybody. Things like, oh, we want strict taxation of all churches. We're as far as we know, the only legitimate.
Sorry to interrupt. Your church is one of the only ones that does pay taxes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you would encourage others to do the same.
Well, between that and marijuana legalization, I think we could tidy up that deficit right quick. I don't, it gives the government a hold in the churches, and it gives the churches a reason to blur the separation, and there's no reason for it. And so that's like our big agenda. Yeah, it's really not going. We have no, James Bond, Dr. Evil plans to take over the world. In fact, we know, very nice. We know that we will always be a minority religion. We know it. We accept it. It's why we don't recruit, because what we have found is someone reads the Satanic Bible and they either say, well, that's bullshit, and throw it to the side, or they say, well, that's what I've always thought. We don't need people to do spiritual manipulation of their mind. They either agree and identify, or they don't. And that's cool with us. We don't want people who don't. And we don't want people who look at that canon, that read those 7 books and think we ought to change this or we ought to change that. This is who we are. If it becomes who we're not, we're free to leave. Nobody will come to your house. Like, it's not like Scientologists chasing you down at the bus terminal or anything. But you don't want to be here? We're cool. Have a nice day. Don't let us out.
Is there stuff in the church that you're not exposed to until you're in there for several years? Like the Church of Scientology, they don't tell you about the story of Xenu until you're a high-ranking member. Is there anything you guys don't tell your members until they're several years in the church?
Okay, that's another one I get all the time. All the time. Maybe you just don't know yet. Well, again, there are technically 2 people in the hierarchy higher than I am. Both would have, or 3, and they would have to like kick the bucket, and at least 2 of those, if they did, there would be no replacements for them. So I'm pretty high up there. And I've been to no end of group gatherings, and I've contributed. The answer is no. It's such a silly concept, and I might add that very few Christian religions ask themselves the same thing. Gee, you're just a layperson or a deacon. When do you get to know, the real truth about blah, blah, blah? It's bullshit. And there's no reason to get secretive if you're not doing anything wrong. You might not be doing anything popular, but it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. And we don't, so we don't have to worry. And no, if there's, again, I don't know what I would have to do after, 20 plus years in this and 35 in essentially the alternative religion business to scope out that mystery. What they're going to later on tell me, oh, by the way, there was a Satan, to which I would simply respond, well, then we're no longer in tune. Have a nice day. I mean, there's
or
nothing.
They say you can't leave. You signed your soul.
Where is my soul? Find it. The soul is just, I love the word because of its more secular meanings. And I do believe there are soulless bastards out there, but it can't be found. It can't be signed over. It can't be, what is it, in my spleen? It's non-finding. If you mean my brain, well, I'm using it. If you want to use it after I'm gone, go dig it up. That's fine. Whatever. It's just such silliness. It's people's need for drama. And at least in that front, we provide a service. we because we do. We allegedly dress funny, and we don't believe in God. That's the one nobody can wrap their head around. How can you not believe in a higher power? And the point is, if there is a higher power, it is utterly uninterested with our day-to-day life. All you have to do is look around. Or he's a mother, or he's the worst thing ever, allowing babies who never heard his name to die because they haven't been blessed. If there's a higher power, he's not made itself known in a way that would actually entice anyone with a brain, in my estimation. I don't need a God or a book, even before I joined the church, to tell me not to rip off my neighbor, not to murder people. Natural law has evolutionarily programmed us for social behavior. I don't need that. And people really don't get that. Who do you pray to? You know, I say, oh my God, as much as the next guy, or please God, or whatever. But it's more just, you know, let's scream out into the ether that I'm frustrated. You know, I don't expect and I don't ask. When people hear us say, I am my own God, they assume that means I rule over all. No, it just means I am the captain of my own ship and only I can change things. That's all it means.
There are other self-proclaimed satanic organizations, most notably the Satanic Temple. Is that just a different denomination, or uh, a group that was inspired by the church to start their own kind of satanic belief system?
Well, all right. It is the position of the Church of Satan, as well as my personal position, that there is one kind of Satanism. There are no denominations. It is written in the canon that was created by the man who invented Satanism. Now, people say Satanism has been going on forever. Devil worship has been going on forever because they've been fed a devil. Until 1966, not a single group of human beings have been self-labeled as Satanists. Never. We were the first. He was the first. And he then wrote the Satanic Bible. We believe that that gives us pretty much authority on the topic. The Temple of Satan is a political group that uses our terminology and our name to get the attention they would not otherwise get. They'd just be another little lefty, move on, whatever organization. Well, that's no fun. You don't get to put up little statues and argue with big mean men just by being a law-abiding, decent citizen. You have to. So they adopted our practice, some of our practices. They don't understand why we don't understand, and here's why. We will never, ever, as a church, take a political position. We don't believe in it because every church in America will sit there on Sunday and veil or not veil, outright tell you who to vote for, who's for God, who's for, you know, anti-abortion. And they will sit there and they will breach the contract where you're supposed to, you know, get your tax deferment in order not to mess with the political system. But they all do it. And so we allow each member can do whatever they want politically. We have the most diverse political spectrum you have ever seen. Some are downright like weird and even unpleasant, but that's the individual's choice. He gets to make it. His church doesn't tell him to make it. And so when they go out and they make political statements or support candidates they are spitting in the face of everything we stand for. So the fact that they're using our name only pisses us off or makes us, you know, nauseous. It's unfair. But we also find that when somebody comes to the Church of Satan and does something, they think they're going to get a little priesthood cap and they're going to be a big mojo guy. And when that doesn't happen, because it takes years to be recognized, years, when that doesn't happen, they get pissy and they say they're not following real Satanism, and then they go off and start their thing. And we see it so often that we actually have a little clock that we designed and show it to each other. Oh, look where he is on the, you know, he's on the clock too. He's about to have his implosion when now even the outside world won't recognize him and he's going to coming back. This is just another one of those. You're hearing a lot about temples of Satan because they very successfully maneuver the political arena. Whether they get what they want out of that, and what they really want out of that is attention. So in that way, they've done it. But whether they make any political change, Very quickly, I'll tell you a story about a Satanist who once didn't like a candidate. And he then made flyers of a candidate that said, the Church of Satan endorses so-and-so. And not surprisingly, this was like 30 years ago, that person was not elected. I don't know that our name actually would help anybody. But as individuals, I'm probably one of the most political people in our church. I am, centrist left. We have all the way to the right. We have all the way, till it meets, and it doesn't matter because we've all determined that we are the masters of our own fate, and we take a pragmatic view that we will endorse or not endorse for what benefits us individually.
Going over some of the satanic literature, it seems like in terms of a political ideology, the Church of Satan kind of leans libertarian. Would that be a fair assessment?
The Church of Satan utilizes the Constitution as a part of its backbone because the libertarians, that's their deal too. I can see why you would say that, and I wouldn't disagree. But it is, again, the day that the Church of Satan endorses and says we're pro-life or pro-choice, an issue as an institution, is the day most of us would leave. Because there is no way when you run a church of individuals that they are going to agree on anything like that. And it would be really dull when you see pews full of people all nodding their head and saying yes, and following by rote. I don't find that reassuring. I don't find that at all. I find it, automatons, Stepford people. No, that's not the church I would want to belong to.
Does the church have folks that believe in the paranormal, or are you guys pretty unified in your skepticism and materialism?
Actually, we do. How they manage to rationalize that while living in I think it's probably kind of paranormal agnosticism. They're fascinated by it.
Yeah.
They've had experiences that they can't explain and therefore are more open to it, but they live their lives as atheists. And you can do that when you're an atheist. The world of possibility is open to you. But when it comes down to day-to-day events, they're pretty much on the science side. But again, there are things we know. There's the term that history's magic is tomorrow's science. And obviously we're somebody's tomorrow. So there's magic going on, We'll see what it, burns out.
Do you yourself believe there are secret societies out there that genuinely worship Satan that we don't know about yet?
Well, first I would have to ask what you mean by Satan. Because
I mean, like Satan, the
devil
spirit,
in
yeah, devil,
Christian
yeah.
mythology. Are there secrets? No. I have there been? Maybe. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I will tell you if they do, it's based very, very strictly on that Abrahamic version of Satan. And then they go and worship in the church anyway. So once again, it would be a different sort of deity. If you want to look at the metaphor of Satan as a Church of Satan member, he's generally seen as that paradise lost Lucifer who says, I would rather stand in heaven or stand in hell than kneel in heaven. That we don't see pride as a bad thing. If it's something you work for, you deserve it. Why thank somebody else? I do think there are frat boy organizations to hold on to the monetary and corporate big boy network that frankly do crazy, stupid ritual stuff like Skull and Bones or whatever, so that they all have something on each other and later on can do business. But I don't think it has a single spiritual or even intellectual benefit. It's a bunch of frat boys who get drunk every other day and want to slap each other on the ass. I thought that was football. I don't know. But no, if they do, and it would be, don't misunderstand. I would love to find out I'm wrong. I'm a huge espionage conspiracy like book kind of thing. I love that shit. But I've looked into it. And frankly, I see nothing but people, which are usually disappointing. Nothing. Nada.
The High Priest Peter Gilmore has said you have high-profile members in law enforcement, military, and big corporations. Can you say how many members you have, or do you not want to say?
We never tell how many our membership is, because if it's too large, people get nervous and start hunting us down, and if it's too small, we're disregarded. No, but we've been in existence since 1966, and we have and the vast majority, about 90% of our membership, I would say, keep their membership private. And you don't have to be a member of the church to be a Satanist. We don't demand that of anyone. If you have read the canon and you're living your life the way you should, and you say I'm a Satanist, your little red card doesn't mean anything. You're a Satanist. And we see de facto Satanists, people behaving satanically all the time. And that's fascinating. But yeah, there is not an industry that we don't have people involved in. Again, we're humans. We have to do something for a living, and yeah, we do. We have a great membership.
As you know, I run a page that's anti-conspiracy called the Ex-Conspiracy Theorist. I've come to view conspiracy theories as a form of religion, but a religion without a god, but a demon, like going after what they believe are demons and ghosts out to control our way of life, whether they think we're being run by satanic cult or Skull and Bones, the Bohemian Grove, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What's your take on the current affair that conspiracy theories have taken pretty much of an ugly route, such as the mass shooting denials?
Well, Alex Jones, I don't know how much editing you have to do, but feel free, is a and a dangerous, nasty human being and a liar. And if that's the best they got, if that's their, go-to boy, well, you can see why so many of us opt not to be. If that's the mainstream, heaven help us all. And my husband loves the paranormal and conspiracy theories. We joke about it. I was like, oh, you're going to Bigfoot tonight? Shit like that. He doesn't believe any of them. He loves listening to, as he puts it, the crazy people. He has such a ball with it. I find it irritating. It makes me angry. I'm like, bullshit, blah, 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 and like they'll say in such and such a year something happened. Well, you know what? I'm pretty well read. No, it didn't. It happened in this year, and they didn't say that. They said, it makes me nuts. So if they are so disappointed with the real world, they can't find joy in it or even something legitimate to hate. How about, some kids in cages or starving children? If you're looking for something to make a difference with, stop doing this intellectual masturbation. And that's what it is. Okay, there was probably, I'm not anti-UFO or even anti-alien. I'm just figuring they're not going to go down to Joe Blow Farmer in the middle of nowhere. They might know where the capital is. Just thinking if they got here. It's not that I say none of these things exist. I'm saying until there's proof, what are you doing? You have so much energy invested when there are real things that could use that kind of energy. And if that's some sort of demon, I would call it the demon of mass suggestion. And frankly, weak people who can't determine reality from fiction.
Okay, I think I'm going to close with that. I appreciate your time.
Hey, it was really nice. You have a great day.
And where can people learn more about the Church of Satan if they want to know?
They should see churchofsatan.com. They can come to Radio Free Satan and see some of the work we do. And I'm on Confessions of a Wicked Witch on Radio Free Satan.
All right. Thank you for joining me.
Have a good day.
Thank you.